Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. This is Chris Kahn, polling editor at Reuters. I'm talking to you from New York, from our headquarters, and we just got some new polling numbers today, and we'll get to that in a second. But the first thing I want to do is talk about Brexit, really the story of the day. We really didn't poll on Brexit. We're not asking Americans what they think about the UK leaving the European Union. But there's a number of things that came out of this that I think is worth talking about right now to understand polls a little bit better. So a few things I want to say about Brexit before we move on to our horse race poll in the U.S. A couple things that people should know about polling, and this was an issue in the UK, and this is going to be the issue in the United States. You may have noticed that there was a lot of polls about what was going to happen with Brexit. A lot of those polls missed, and there's a couple reasons for that. When we're talking about polling, there's really two big components here. First is just kind of the questions that you ask, how you word the questions, who you're asking, how are you asking the question, and what order you ask those questions. The second component is actually deciding whose answers are you going to be taking a look at when you're trying to make a prediction. So what we do and what most people do is we come up with a likely voter model. Basically, we send out a poll, we ask a bunch of questions, including who would you vote for between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, and then we look at you and we decide whether you're actually going to show up on election day or not. Those then become our likely voters. Those then are the people that we include in the poll. There's going to be a lot written about how the polls missed with Brexit. There always are when there's a lot of polls that kind of go one way or the other. My guess is that in this case, that the issue was really with turnout. It was with the likely voter models. I spent a little bit of time this morning talking to our polling partner at Ipsos. They were saying the same thing. They were saying that really the election, the Brexit election, as well as the U.S. General election, they're really emotional elections right now. There's really an existential question that's going on. Is it England first? Is it America first? Are there there's a lot of people who are voting this time that feel that the system is rigged against them. And when it's an emotional election like this, you're going to get a lot of people who are going to show up at the polls who normally haven't in the past. There's going to be a little bit of a surprise there. They may not show up in a likely voter model. But they're there nonetheless, and that may be what's skewing what really was the difference maker between the polls for Brexit and what actually happened at Brexit, and this may be an issue as well. And so us here at Reuters Ipsos with our poll, and I bet you every other poll out there, they're taking a look at their likely voter models. They're taking a look at what they can learn from Brexit, and they're thinking it through, and trying to make sure that. When we're polling, we're making sure that we get it right for the U.S. general election. So, a couple of things I want to say about Brexit, aside from polling. One thing that is clear is there are some very similar themes that are going on with Brexit that really was driving that election compared with the United States. There was similarly an England first as opposed to an America first issue there. There was an anti-immigrant, nativist type of feeling, a sentiment among a lot of the voters there. So one of the questions that we're thinking about, and we'll be looking forward to the future, is will Brexit matter? I mean, what kind of similar issues do we see in the United States? Polling Explorer is one place that will help you and helps us figure out how big of an issue these sentiments are in the United States. So the first thing I wanted to show you was just a few polls in the Polling Explorer, and you can follow me on polling.reuters.com. I should also mention that if you do have questions, feel free to send them in. I'll be reading your questions during this Facebook Live event, and you can also email me later. You can Twitter me. I'm on at CMKahn, CMKAHN. My email is on the Polling Explorer, so you can find it there. And so happy to help if you have any questions. But anyway, I just want to get to a couple kind of Brexity type of questions. And the first one, if you're looking and if you're following along here, there's a search field in the upper right-hand corner. And you can do this with me if you want. Actually, the first one is one I've been pointing to a couple of times. Is just should the U.S. ban Muslims from the United States? This is kind of your general, anti-immigrant sentiment here. And I'm actually going to change the view so that we're just looking at the past month. But you can see from this view, this is our daily view. Left to right we go every single day here. Disagree is the green line, agree is the red line. and Americans are very much split. And if you look, I'll do this actually. If you look at party affiliation, which you can do here, you can just pull up the drop-down menu here. I'll scroll down so you can see at the bottom here. You can see my cursor. You can filter for a number of different kind of demographics. If you want to have this question, have a conversation about immigration in the United States, it's important to realize that it's not just Donald Trump supporters who feel that that the U.S. should ban Muslims. It's not just Donald Trump supporters who feel that we should have tougher immigration laws and a bigger wall and all of that. And I'll show you here. If you click and filter for Democrats, you'll find, more than a quarter actually agree with Donald Trump on this issue. We have a number of other questions. Actually, I'll pull up another one here. Let's see. This is a question that we've had around for a little while too. It is really kind of getting a general feel for how do what do you think of immigrants coming into the country? Do they strengthen society, or are they a threat to our general beliefs and customs? You can see overall, again, Americans are split, but overall, 56% of Americans feel that they strengthen society. Very pro-immigrant, for these 56% of Americans. But there is a sizable minority here, 44%, that feel that they're a threat to beliefs and our customs. And again, these are not just Donald Trump supporters. These are not just Republicans. I'll click on the Democrats again, and you can see that, again, roughly about a third feel that way. And so if you're wanting to track kind of the same, anti-immigrant, America First type of issues, you'll find a lot of that in our Polling Explorer. I just wanted to, while Brexit is still an issue, while we're trying to figure out what this actually means, I wanted to point you to a lot of these questions that we have, right here in the Polling Explorer that you can search for yourself. So again, that's pretty much all I'll say on Brexit. If you have any questions about that, feel free to send them in to me. Again, you can contact me a number of different ways. So let's get to the horse race, and I'll try to get to this real quick. I know it's a little bit late on a Friday. Here we are. This is our main polling page. Again, you can see all the different tiles. If you're new to the Polling Explorer, again, it's polling.reuters.com. It's that big link that you see up there on the top of the screen. You can pretty much search for anything, not just our main Clinton versus Trump questions, but just about anything that we ask. You'll find there. You can see we have a gun control question. We have what should Bernie Sanders do right now? What's the most important problem in the United States? We have a number of different things in here, but let me get to the one that I think most people ask about. This is Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton. And let me get the view so everyone can see it, and I'll click over today. So again, just a way to use this data, just for those who haven't been on it. The blue line is Hillary Clinton, the red line is Donald Trump. The yellow line is kind of a combo field for everyone who is right now considered to be a likely voter, but right now isn't picking either side. And if you hover over the data, you can actually hover your cursor over the data as I'm doing right now, you'll get the 5-day average as of that day. So June 24th, we have the average as of today. This is really the last 5 days averaged up to today, and we actually did some of our final interviews this morning before they uploaded the data. You'll see that Hillary Clinton has 46.6% versus Donald Trump 33.3%. Her lead is double digits again, about 13.3 percentage points. And it's actually good to see the daily view like this, and I'll kind of scroll up so you can see the whole thing here. There was one point when they were pretty much tied. You see, let's see, let me get right there. They were right around, they're just about even at the beginning of May. And if you think about what was happening at the beginning of May, Donald Trump had just, pretty much locked in the GOP nomination. Ted Cruz and John Kasich were getting out. And, a lot of Republican leaders started lining up behind his campaign. But pretty much ever since then, Hillary Clinton has been pulling away. So what has been happening since then? Hillary Clinton, she really since then locked in her own nomination pretty much. A lot of Democrats, including Barack Obama and Senator Warren, got behind her campaign. A number of things were happening, and we've been seeing this widening with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump ever since. She's really owned a double-digit lead or more pretty much since mid-May. And I'm actually, if you can see where I'm hovering my cursor right now, there was this brief moment here where Donald Trump was chipping away at her lead. And they are really coming really close. In fact, right about here was when they were about closest. This was early this week, where he had brought it down within single digits. There was a couple things that were happening here that we were looking at the time, and if you were looking at our Facebook live feeds earlier, you probably heard this. One thing that we were wondering about was, we had the Orlando shootings 2 weeks ago. Donald Trump, just like he did after the Paris attacks and after the San Bernardino attacks, had a real striding tone against immigrants. He doubled down on his ban on Muslims. He was really kind of generating a lot of the emotional appeal that he did late last year, when he was introducing himself really as the GOP frontrunner and really became the likely nominee. After that, he really kind of locked in his lead right at the end of 2015. So the question that we were asking when we were looking at our poll was, were we going to see this continue? This is a different audience. This isn't, this poll is for all Americans, not just Republicans. But how much is he going to get from this? Clearly, he was doubling down on that, and we see that he did, get relatively close here. He got within, I don't know, he maybe chipped away about 4 or 5 points from Hillary Clinton's lead, but it appears that we're kind of back to where we were before. So when you're looking at the horse race polls, it's important to really think of the long-term trend, what's happening overall, and so the way that I typically explain it, and the way I typically see it is, about several weeks ago, they were roughly tied, and Hillary Clinton has been widening since then. We can get to what happened day after day, but really that's the general trend. We will be watching in the future to see if, maybe Brexit has an issue, maybe there's some other issue that might be playing into this. We'll be looking at that next week. And that's pretty much what we have all today. Again, thank you for watching. You can find us on polling.reuters.com. You can find me pretty much every Tuesday and Friday. I do a Facebook Live event. And the final numbers that we have today is Hillary Clinton ahead of Donald Trump by about 13 percentage points. Thank you very much. Have a good